Do you need Cassie's help before you do that too? Okay. All right, at 6:40, we'll call the meeting to order. This is our regular called council meeting for the month. Today is September 12th, 2022. If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anybody on there? So that takes us to item 1A, the consent agenda. And we have some minutes to approve. We're going to table that. There's several things, and I don't believe those are quite finished up, so we're gonna hold those minutes. That takes us to item 2, which is discussion and possible action regarding approval of a change order number 1 for the Johnson Drive ground storage tank rehabilitation as recommended by Walker Partners.
Good evening, Council Mayor. So this change order is for the Johnson Drive ground storage tank. As we've gone through a couple of items in the construction, we've noticed the paint on the exterior of the tank is in worse condition than we originally evaluated it at. Part of it is that we, I guess first I'll just say we had a expert with the Berry Group, who represents most of the paint manufacturers, come and do an evaluation with us. From the test that we ran, the exterior paint coating that's there now, there's a couple of problems with it. The first problem is that the thickness of it is not consistent around the entirety of the tank. Some areas it's 15 mils, some areas it's as thick as about 30 mils.
Jeez. And
because of that, there are areas that are flaking off, and that's due to, one, the age. The tank, I think, was originally built in about the 1970s, early 1970s. So that puts it right around 50 years old. And so whenever you do the rehab, typically you'll just paint over with the existing paint that's there. And so there's areas that are flaking off, and when it becomes that thick, when the coating is that thick, it becomes extremely rigid. And so if you just paint over the top of it, you continue to have those same problems with the underneath coating. And so this change order is to actually remove all of the existing coating on the exterior and start new. The reason we're recommending just to do this, we did do the interior. Based on the interior, the steel is in good condition on the tank. So I feel like the structural capacity of the steel is still there, and it's okay. And this would just give you a much longer lifespan on the product, as opposed to what we originally proposed was just to wash the exterior of the tank and coat and put an overcoat on it. Again, this would just be, we would blast off all the existing coating that's there, take it down to bare steel, put a new primer on it, put a new base coat, and then a new top coat.
Jacob, what's the normal thickness of a coat of paint mills?
The proposed thickness of the full system, again, including the primer, the intermediate coat, and the top coat, is about 6.5 to 10 mils. It'll range between there.
some spots have 30 on it.
Close to 30, yes, sir.
It was probably, should have been stripped a while back.
Correct.
So that change order, 46,225, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Carolyn, where does that money come from?
We got word that we're going to receive almost $55,000 in a insurance claim that we filed earlier for the utility fund for lightning strike, and so that will more than cover this.
Lucky day.
Yeah.
When did you get that letter?
Today.
There you go.
Ms. Angela actually forwarded it to me today.
Good Lord is taking care of us once again.
Looky there. Before the good Lord took care of us, though, where was it gonna come from?
We already knew we filed the claim.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay.
But the answer would have been fund balance.
And what's the timeline on this and getting it all resolved?
The contractor's ready. I think there is a little bit of delay in getting some of the materials. And so, and it's just the top coat, so we'll be able to get it stripped down, get the primer on there, get the intermediate coat on there pretty quick. Part of this that will slow it down a little bit also is, since it is on the exterior, and per TCEQ, we're within, I think it's 250 feet of a residence, we do have to shroud the tank. And so, to make it a little bit cheaper, as opposed to doing a full shroud of the whole tank, what they'll do is they'll put up just a section of shrouding, and they'll blast that down, and then just move the shrouding around the tank as they blast. And again, that's just for taking off the existing coating. That's not whenever they actually go back to paint it, but, they did not ask for an increase in the time of the contract for this, but all in all, I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks to do the full blasting and coating.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
So we have two change orders. One looks like it's alternative 1, the other's alternative 2.
That is correct. So we put together 2 alternatives to look at. The one we recommended is the more expensive one is the $46,225. The first one is it's what we call a brush blast, and it's basically you're blasting the exterior of the tank to a lesser degree, and you're basically just taking off the loose scale that's there. Some of the exterior coating that's brittle, that can be removed using that brush blast. You're gonna get off a little bit more than what you would with the pressure wash, but you're not taking it down to the bare steel. And so you still have a pretty thick section of exterior paint. And so really because of that, that was the main driver of recommending doing what we call is getting to a near white metal, which again is basically just taking it down to bare steel. But we did want to go ahead and give y'all both of those options. We got quotes from the contractor for both options. Either option, I will say too, just so you know, either option will require the shrouding. So that cost is gonna be encumbered regardless of the alternate 1 or alternate 2.
Any other questions, anybody?
When they make the motion, do they need to say alternate 1 or 2?
Yeah.
I would think so, yes.
Or you can just put in the amount. Someone just reference the change order amount. So is there a motion on item 2?
Move that we approve change order, alternate 2 for the Johnson Drive ground storage tank rehab, recommended by Walker Partners in the amount of $46,225.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second on item 2. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries.
Mayor, Council.
Thank you, appreciate it. To 3, discussion and possible action regarding approval of resolution R-13-2022, a resolution of the City Council of the City of McGregor, Texas, adopting the investment policy in compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act.
Mayor, council, this is something we have to do each year. There are no changes. I went out and looked at the state statutes, and there's been no modifications to any of it. So therefore, we have the same policy in place.
And give us the really high view of what this is, summary.
This is what allows Mr. Evans and I to invest in people's legal. There's
kind of an extension of state law that keeps us from investing in things that are not solid or sound, so that you won't lose a couple $1 million here and there like some cities have.
And the money that we invest, is that general fund cash, is that retirement funds?
It's not retirement funds, but it is general fund cash, it's all the bond issues, it's, just anywhere, you know, airport, has some, utility fund has some. If we have some money that's just, say it's at our local depository and they're paying 0.1% interest, and I can put it in a pool that's paying 2% interest, then I'll move it to the pool. And that's really the only two. We don't have any, other kinds of investments. It's strictly bank and pool. And they're set up to where one can only go to the other and back and forth, so.
And I guess in the private world, that pool be something akin to like retained earnings.
The pool is just like a big savings account.
Yeah, so it's money that we don't anticipate needing on a day-to-day basis.
Correct.
Correct.
Techstar,
Techstar, Techpool,
Techpool.
Logic are our three pools.
And no changes made,
No, sir.
but this is something we have
The
to
only
renew.
thing changes the date.
Okay, this is something we have to update or at least renew every year.
Yes, sir. That's required by the Public Funds Investment Act.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? If not, is there a motion under item 3 by resolution number?
Go ahead. I make a motion to approve resolution R-13-2022.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on item 3. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. All right, we've got several items to go through regarding city appointments. I think Angela has given us this packet now a couple of times, which is, looks like been updated even as we sat down this evening. So, I think all of you have at least done this once before, but just to reiterate, we always have openings, we've got them staggered so that we're not replacing all boards at any, during any one year. To the extent we have qualified, and I preface that always with qualified people, let's appoint someone. If we don't have qualified people, then we can keep it open. And I always say that it's better to keep it open until we find someone who's qualified than just to put somebody there who may not carry on the same policies that we have in mind. As a council, we have a vision. Obviously, we are not always all in agreement, and that's perfectly okay. But I think collectively, we have an agreement or an understanding of where we want the city to head. And these boards are very important. They make preliminary decisions for us, day-to-day policy, things that come back to us, obviously normally for final approval, but they do the groundwork many times. And so it's very important that we get the people in there who we believe will continue to carry on what we think is best for the city. So with that, we'll just start going through these items one at a time. And again, because we're working from a pool of people, some who may be some overlaps, we don't have to address all of these in the order that we have. For example, if all of you looked at your packet, you've all looked at the vacancies, and we can do some juggling, so we don't have to do them all one at a time in the order because of folks who we may want to put on, move folks up from alternates, or move someone out, put them someplace else. We can keep all those things in mind and then come back and appoint once we get it all sorted out, so. Let's just take off and see where we land. So under item 4, that's a discussion and possible action regarding appointment of members to the Building and Standards Commission. All right, so everybody sees, now let's start with, there are some letters of interest to serve on multiple boards that you see here. So we've got a gentleman, James Pierce, he's got some things listed there. Mike Wooten, I think we all know Mike, he's got a few listed there. And then David Kamphinkle. I don't know David, maybe somebody does. But anyway, so we have this group of folks who is sitting here who would do lots of different things. Oh, I also have Trenton Rice sent one in today. That's not this board, though. Okay, so Building Standards Commission. Let's look and see what we have up. We've got open Mike Buchanan, Bernice Danforth, Eric Benitez, with an alternate of Trenton Rice. And a second alternate as well. All right, so we have letters from everybody here. The Building Standards Commission. My notes reflect from last time. But we hope we'll meet, or they will meet 3 to 4 times this year as Paul begins or continues to work on I don't know, I call it community cleanup. I know he's got some things in the works.
Substandard structures.
Yeah, he's got some things in works, and so that board's gonna probably have to meet this year a handful of times, so. And I'll just say from my experience with the folks on here, I think we know who we have. I think they've done a good job. But we all need to take them, one other thing, we need to take them, we can take them one at a time, we don't have to. So, it's open, Building Standards Commission is open. What are your thoughts, anybody? There's a comment. Anybody else have comments about these?
I mean, you know, there's one position, I don't know, I guess we can look at for us and maybe, you know, maybe moving one to alternate up, because what we just spoke about, you know, in the package, if you notice, there was a concern, at least in her talking to me, and if you notice, Miss Bernice Danforth wrote in here, and everybody, I guess, have this note, say my name is on the examination, I would like to discontinue to serve on the regular board, standard board. And kind of her concern was, it seems as though, and she had been on it quite a while, but it seemed to be this year that the board wasn't functioning. They used to have meetings and stuff, and there wasn't, when, you know, Brian was kind of there and everything, and I know, you know, he's not in that position anymore, but that was kind of her concern, and I guess in her serving on it in long tenure, she's been on it quite a while, then that kind of disgusted her a little, and in her talking to me, she was seemed to be that it wasn't functioning because they wasn't having any meetings, and you know, she kind of like what we're saying is things around town that she was saying that in the past that board was kind of functioning, dealing with it. So she was, you know, just felt like it wasn't getting done, so she didn't want to serve anymore. And she put that in her, you know, in talking to me, but in here, you know, she says she don't want to be on the board. So that's one position, one place that we know
Yeah,
that.
that's a good catch. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
She wrote those letters the exact same way for the housing authority. And so that disc in front of there, I didn't even see it. Cause she has the same letter for housing authority.
She got that for housing authority?
Uh-huh.
I understand she wanted to serve on the housing.
Yes.
Yeah, she
That's what I
does.
mean.
No, but I'm telling you,
both the letters
Okay.
looked, I didn't see.
But when we get to that,
his
she wanted,
picture.
she might have misprint, but on this
No,
one,
it looks
I
accurate.
talked to her
Yeah.
about this one, and that's what she told me, cause see, I saw that, but on
Yeah.
the housing, she wanted to serve, or still stay on that. But we haven't got to that yet, but I'm saying on
Yeah.
this one, so that was her concern, and I actually have talked to her before, but even, I was telling her about, tonight we was gonna look at, put people on the board, and I just talked to her yesterday, and that was still her concern, cause I wanted to be for sure that she was one to
I'm glad
come
you
off the
followed up
board.
on that.
Yes.
I didn't wanna not know for sure.
Yeah.
And I just talked to her, yeah, and that was her concern, what she quoted,
I'm glad you followed up on that.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good logical choice.
Are any of these people here? David? Camper Hinkle?
Yeah,
No? Or James Pierce?
no.
I know James is not.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna do these like this, make a motion for, put somebody on the board, or how we gonna go? Cause kinda like what Sherwood said, I'm just saying, since, especially I feel like, people still willing to serve, it's
Yeah.
the alternate, make Trent Rice for this, the position of word,
So I tell you
one of the
what,
members on the board, not,
yeah, then that's a good idea. We can move him up and we can vote on Mike, Trenton, Eric, and then we can go to the alternates. How about that? Is that okay?
I don't understand what you're saying, Jimmy.
So we can vote on Mike, Trenton to move up as an alternate, and Eric Benitez. So then we would have the main board filled, and then we can, in a separate action, we can look at the alternates.
Can we do that first one all?
Yes.
Bring it together?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as it's motioned and approved, but if not, then we'll back out. So is there a motion somewhat to that effect?
I make a motion that we accept Mike Buchanan, Trenton Rice, and Eric Benitez onto the board of the Building and Standards Commission.
A second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, for Buchanan, Benitez, and Rice to serve a 2-year term that would end September 2024. Any other questions or comments from the council about that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. Okay, so we've got 2 alternates. And from our list of potential others, as I call them, we've got James Pierce, Mike Wooten, and David Camfinkel. So I'll tell you what I know about a couple of them. So James Pierce, he lives on New Windsor Parkway. He's been around McGregor for a really long, long time. I've known him since I was probably 18, 20 years old, or even before that. I can vouch for his character, those sorts of things, but the one thing that concerns me, and we've raised this before, he does not live in the city limits. And nor that I'm aware of does he own property. Now I'm not certain of that, whether he owns property, but I know he does not live in the city limits. And for some boards, look, that's not that important. But on this board, I think it is. Because when you're on the Building and Standards Board, there are times when you're gonna have the final say whether someone has to demolish the property. And I think you ought to be a resident of the city to make that kind of decision. But just because it's such a big deal, it's such a property right that you are affecting.
On this board, is it a requirement?
No.
Okay.
So for example, Trenton has multiple properties in town. His business is in town. He owns the old vet clinic up there, and man,
Oh, does
it's,
he?
and he now has storage buildings that he built over there. He's got multiple, and that's not the only one. So,
So who we gonna vote?
well, there is, the other person is Mike Wooten, who sits on the Community Services Advisory Board. And I think we've all seen Mike here before, a veteran, small business owner here in McGregor, lives in McGregor. And I've spoke with Mike a handful of times, and I know he shares the same vision for McGregor that we do. So, and again, I just don't know anything about Mr. Camp and Hinkle. I just don't know if he lives here. I just don't know anything. For folks that we don't know, it sure be helpful.
I know he works in Waco, but that doesn't mean he lives there. But he puts his address there where he works. You know?
Yeah, I know. I don't know, it'd be my recommendation for now to move Mike to an alternate position and leave the other alternate open. But I think we do need an alternate. I think we need to get a person there, because there might be some nights when there's real business to take care of, and we need a full board there.
Who is in charge of the board?
Paul,
Paul will run it.
But Paul, you haven't had a meeting yet since you've been here? So before that, it was Mike?
you know, Brian.
Did everybody show
Brian.
up? Or Brian?
Brian.
Did everybody show up, or?
Yeah, they usually have pretty good turnout of the members. Whenever you have these meetings, you also ask the alternates to come so that they'll be up to speed and go through the learning process on all the projects as well. We've not done it because we've been trying to focus on neighborhood zone cleanup, high weeds, grass, junk, parking, and a few other things like that. And now we're gonna begin targeting an area of town that has inhabited substandard structures, which is always a much more delicate problem. So this board will be meeting, and it will be meaningful when they do. But, you know, 3 times a year is probably about the maximum they'll be able to get in.
Yeah, and usually that takes place when, you know, it gets really dicey, when someone won't follow the urging or the nudging from the city to go clean up the property. And we've seen it all happen. I mean, it's happened a lot.
This is where we're going to be having conversations with landlords.
Yeah, yeah. It's primarily where it happens.
Would you like some input on David?
Yeah, sure. Do you know him? Who are
I know
you?
him from Connections. His children come to Connections a lot.
Say, I'm sorry?
His children come to Connections a lot.
Okay.
Come to the mic, would you, Nate?
I'll just mention it factually. David Campwinkle owns D&D Air Conditioning, and his wife Lori, they homeschool their children, and I believe they live in Waco. Or I'm sorry, I believe they live in McGregor, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, I noticed that he, well, that's David. Well, James, that's his first choice, building and standards. And
So,
then
well, this is the group that wants everything.
Mike
But
Wooten
do
as
anything.
well, that's his first choice. And on David, that's his last choice.
Okay.
Again, I would,
Let's take my vote.
yeah, I would recommend Michael just because I know he lives in McGregor, business in McGregor.
Want to make a motion?
You can.
I make a motion, we take Mike Wooten as the alternate for this building and standards commission.
Second.
There's a motion, a second, to place Mike Wooten as one of 2 alternates for the Building Standards Commission.
So that one will be the term ending 2024.
Yes.
Cause that other one has to be 2023 to keep everything.
Yeah.
Right.
No, let's do him to 2024. Are there any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that leaves another alternate spot. So we've got a couple, well, at least one, David. You know, and if David were to show up sometime and, or he clarify, you know, really because we've not seen him here at all before. I'd really like to ask him a few questions. So, Angela, can you get a hold of him? Yeah, just say, look, if you're still interested. But again, I think we should just carry that forward another month, and anybody's, look, at the spot's open, so anybody's free to apply if we're gonna keep it open, but,
Keep it open.
yeah. Everybody okay with keeping that open until we find the right circumstance?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we will move from, building and standards then to that was item 4. We'll move to item 5, which is discussion and possible action regarding appointment of members to the Community Services Advisory Board, formerly the Event Center Advisory Board. Okay, so as you see, we've got 2 openings. John Sneed, Ray Dietzman have resigned, leaving 2 openings. And I think it's really important to keep in mind here that this board just got a lot more important as of a couple of months ago. Cassie, tell us again, real quick, what all this board's gonna be charged with overseeing?
Sure, this board will be charged with overseeing anything that falls under the community services department, which would be the event center, parks and recreation, the cemetery, the senior center, the city pool, as well as the new splash pad that y'all approved, the build of that, and then we do a little bit of tourism as well.
Okay. So, let's, we have a request from Catherine, is that Roden?
Yes.
Otherwise known as
Well,
Ren?
Otherwise known as Ren, she spoke at one of the board, one of
Yeah.
the council meetings just a few months
Remember that, a
ago.
couple months ago?
Well, it may have been last month, you had a number of
That's
meetings
true.
last month, so I'm not entirely
That's
sure.
true. That, you're exactly right, that was last month.
She also serves on the Chamber of Commerce Board, very active member. And lives here. In fact, I think she's neighbors with Andrew, that ought to give her some points right there.
Shows around the corner.
Does she keep her yard mowed? Just asking for a friend.
Yes, they do.
Well,
She's on the board of directors already for the exchange, I see.
For the nonprofit board, yes.
Yeah, for the nonprofit side, so she has some familiarity. And even if we named her, we still have another spot open.
Wasn't my understanding Nate was interested? Okay.
He came tonight to speak to y'all too.
Nate, you're interested also? Good. Who? Yeah, we've already got Trenton on something.
Yeah, he's on the building board.
So, Nate, you mind taking just a minute to tell us why you're interested in this, what your connection to the community is? I think some of us know that, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us your sales pitch, why you think you're the guy.
Sure thing. My name's Nate Maring. My wife and I, Rebecca, run Connections. We also have a real estate business here. Well, we rent out houses. I'm also a pastor of a church plant called Active Love Church. I've been working at SpaceX since 2015, and so we've been in and around McGregor a lot. Our kids are homeschooled, so we're not necessarily involved in the school activities very much. But my interest in this particular board is because I want to find more ways that we can serve the community with the religious aspect. I want to bring Christ into all of McGregor's events if possible. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's why I wrote a very in-depth letter on my motivations for this board.
And tell us a little about the connections. What do you do up here? Kind of tell everybody what goes on up there. Everybody know that's the building on Main Street that
Actually,
he.
they just moved, sir.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Right.
What'd you
Yeah,
do?
we had the spot across from Luigi's for a couple of years. Just a couple of weeks ago, we moved into the fellowship hall at Victory Chapel. Lower rent, parking, grass, you can imagine some niceties there. We're also going to be expanding our operations at Victory Chapel, both as an outreach center and as a church. So that'll be a bigger part of our future.
And what do you do there, though?
So Connections is basically a faith-based, privately funded community center. We run it like a business, but we treat it like a ministry. And so we provide a place for anybody, really. We serve coffee, we have board games, but our main clientele has been like upper elementary. And so we just provide a place for kids to come and hang out, play. We provide activities sometimes, and we do things like day camps for whenever there's holidays when parents have to work. We'll do a couple of vacation Bible schools a year, that kind of thing.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Let's take these one at a time. Anybody else can add in anything else they want to? I would just say I see that Trenton, he recommended as well, but for now, I would just say of the three that we have for two, again, we don't have to do this, but Trenton serves now in another capacity. We just put him as an active member in the building standards. So all things being equal, I think we should probably not put him in this. If things were a little different and we needed somebody, then that would be okay to do so. But given the two applicants that we have, I would recommend that we not move him in a double-up position. Anybody have anything from a comment to a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept Catherine Roden and Roden
Yes.
on these terms for the Community Service Advisory Board. Let me do that.
You can do one at a time.
I'll second that.
All right, so right now there's a motion to appoint Catherine Roden to the Community Services Advisory Board. Is there any other questions or comments about that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries to the other vacancy.
Do you want us to make a motion?
Did we have, did we have a, on him?
I know at one time I saw the letter from Nate.
From Nate.
I was looking, I think it got pulled in double on making copies.
It was in the last packet.
Yeah. I think I had the last packet.
You want me to print out another one right now?
It is not in the last packet.
I remember seeing it, I didn't bring the
Yeah.
other one though, but I remember.
It's not the last one, no. It must have been in an earlier one. So I've got the last one here.
Let's see what in here.
I'm also available for more questions if you like.
I'm ready to make one.
Tell you what, while we're waiting on that, let's jump down to number 8. Yeah. Yeah, so we have discussion possible action regarding appointment of members to the Housing Authority Board. We have 3 spots open, and you'll notice that one of them must be filled by a resident, which Jerry Payne is. And so, Andrew, you confirm that Ms. Danforth does want to stay in that capacity, is that right?
Yeah, see, you know, the thing with, now, in this one, I don't have what Angela had, because here, see, my name's Bernie, say, and I would like to continue to serve as commissioner on the
Yeah.
McGregor Housing Authority.
It was typed the same when Deidre got her to
Oh,
come up there
okay.
for me.
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
No, she
mine-
wants
mine
to,
did- mine
no,
didn't
she
say
wants
that.
to continue serving on the housing.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't catch that little DIS in front of the,
Yeah.
on the first
See, when I
letter.
saw it on the other one, that's why I wanted to make sure that she was,
Yes.
what she was actually
No,
saying.
you're
But,
right.
you know, on here, see, it's saying that she wants to still be on this
Yeah,
board.
you're right.
The other one, she said she wanted to be out.
So really on this one, there are some other folks who are interested.
Yeah.
Did we get one from Miss Thomas?
Yeah, she's interested.
Yes, sworn in here for her.
She wants,
Okay, all right.
all 3 want to continue.
When
All
you
right.
get to that, Joan is here, the director of the housing.
Hey, Joan. So I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot for a second. Any reason to change anybody?
I see a reason. They all work good together. We work good as a team.
Okay.
I recommend all 3 of them stay on.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so does anybody want to handle that? Let's just do all those at
I
one
make a
time.
motion that we keep Bernice Stanford, Mary Payne, and Linda Thomas on the Housing Authority Board.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to reappoint Ms. Danforth, Mr. Payne, and Ms. Thomas to the Housing Authority Board. Any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, good. So let's go back to number 5. The letter is here from Nate. How do you pronounce your last name?
Mary?
Maring? Okay. All right, so with that, is there, back to 5. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Nate Maring. I put your names, okay, to the Community Service Advisory Board.
There's a motion, a second, for a second appointment for Nate Maring. Any other questions or comments?
Just got one.
Yes.
Just wanted to be stated, it wasn't that I was against him being on the board, just that, you know, as way back when we started doing this, we always had a president said, well, we had at least a letter. And I just didn't see one, so that's why I was asking. It wasn't that I was negative against him on being on the board, it's just that, you know,
wanted to-
and just everybody have a letter, you know, and that's all I was, that was the only point I was making.
Understood. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Mr. Maring, welcome to your new appointed position.
Working, Cassie.
All right, that takes us to 6, which is the Economic Development Board. So we have 2 council persons and 2 citizens. So I'll start with the council. Did I get your letter? Peter?
Let me make, everybody laughing now. Let's get it straight. What letter? We hadn't been out the letter, so, not that. So,
I'm just messing with you.
yeah, I know it, but, see, Jimmy, but they don't know that.
No, you're supposed to be
We
like.
gotta have some fun every now and then.
And I'm laughing.
All right, so Andrew, we'll start with, Andrew, do you want to continue to be on the board?
Yes, I would like
Okay.
to.
Sherry, do you want to continue to be on the board? So, one of the council persons who is not up, is there a motion to reappoint Andrew and Sherry?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Henderson and Ms. Adams to the Economic Development Board.
I second.
There's a motion, a second, to reappoint Mr. Henderson and Ms. Adams to the Economic Development Board. The 4 of us not on the board voting, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. That motion carries with a 4-0, what is otherwise unanimous vote, with the 2 people appointed abstaining. Okay, so Otis and John Hudson. Let's see.
They both want to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I say
We have one other person showing interest other than those 2. Do what?
The ones that show up.
Yeah, thanks.
Just that.
Yes, she's right, Angela's right, plus the 2 who have shown,
EDC, do you have to be, do you have to live in the city too?
no, McLean County, that's part of the bylaws.
Yeah, EDC, it's also part of state law.
Yeah.
You can appoint out in the county.
Any thoughts, council? thoughts ranging from consideration of other people to emotion. Anything you got on your mind?
I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Honest Foster and John Hudson to the Economic Development.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to appoint Otis and John. Is there any questions or comments about that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. That takes us to the appointment of members to the Historic Commission. Let's see. Watson Arnold, Munyon Carnes, Terry Sloan.
We just got something from this.
And interesting, I think we only have something from Munyon, is that right?
Yes.
Nobody else told us anything?
I emailed, I have to ask Andrew, I emailed, Terry Sloan and Watson. Well, I had to call Watson, but I never got him.
You never got a response from Terry either, huh?
Mm-mm.
That's
That was an
surprising.
email.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna check my junk just to be sure. We've been having a few issues. That he shouldn't go there since I sent the email.
So what do we do for this?
Pretty sure they both will serve again. However, I think you go ahead and, if you're gonna do that,
Hold
and
the others
continue
until-
the other two.
Yeah. I'm
Until I
gonna-
just reach out to them. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Munyon Carnes to the
I
Historic
second
Commission.
that.
There's a motion, a second, to reappoint Ms. Carnes to the Historic Commission. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. Is that right?
They're about to start. I'll explain that a little bit later.
Okay, so, hang on just a second. Our other person, James Pierce, did not show interest in that. We don't need to consider Mike because we've put him on one board and as an alternate. And David, although I just don't feel comfortable putting him, we know nothing about him. Yeah, but he didn't sign up for it anyway. Okay, folks, it appears this one's gonna be left blank. Kevin's right. We'll carry this forward.
Rally your people.
Yeah.
I'll
Or
call
somebody.
both of them.
So
Watson's
7.
hard to get hold
Let's go to 9, which is discussion possible action regarding appointment of members to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Got a lot of openings. Well, yeah, we got 3 active members and 1 alternate. Okay, so we've got 1 spot open, we've got a couple of alternates that are there with, we have Chris who's shown interest, and we have Mr. Benitez, who's shown interest to also move up, who has served as the alternate. So,
And Dennis Van Lloyd.
yes, and Dennis Failer has, let's see. Yes, and Dennis Failer has shown interest.
Chris Cox.
Chris
Knox.
Yeah, and Chris Knox, yeah.
There he is.
President accounted for, right? So Chris, at a minimum, we're gonna have an alternate position available and possibly, an active spot. Chris, are you serving on something right now?
I've been on the adjustment board for the last three years. We've never had a meeting. I want to be, I think they've had 2 in 20 years, I think, something like that. I just want to be more active. What I do, planning is a huge part of my job, at HEB. I'm responsible for about 14 to 1,500 outbound loads a day. A week, excuse me, about 650 something deliveries every day. We're responsible for going to the stores, dealing with construction, traffic, with the state as far as getting vehicles in and out. Just lots of different things as far as planning goes around our facility with the city of Temple. Dealing with, I basically make a schedule for about 700 people at our campus. If you including all the stores that we service, because they plan our labor around what we do, it's probably close to 6,000 or 7,000 people. So I have a huge responsibility. We're also dealing with fuel and how many gallons fuel we're using, cost per mile. So just a lot of stuff that goes into that. We use roughly 29,000 gallons of fuel a week. Not a week, a month, excuse me. So we run close to 12 million miles a year out of the Temple facility. So we run close to 250,000 miles a week just out of the facility here in Temple. So we run about 140 drivers. So I do all the planning. I have 2 other guys that help me do that I oversee. So basically that's what I'm doing. And for those of y'all that don't know me, I'm a lifelong member of McGregor. I've lived here my whole life. Graduated from McGregor High School. Had a daughter that graduated from McGregor in 2020. I have one that's a sophomore in high school now. I was vice president of the Little League for almost 10 years. Won a state championship in 2017. Very involved in the high school. I keep the clock at the home games. I haul the horn to all the away games and to the home games. I do all the announcing at the volleyball games, the basketball games. I keep score for the softball games, and I do that all at no cost to the school district. So I would just like to be more part, a bigger part of participating in where our city's going. McGregor's my home. I want to continue to see it going in the right direction. So I would love to be a part of the planning and zoning if y'all would like to do that.
Chris, I'm certainly aware of all your involvement in the school activities and your lifelong residency and commitment to McGregor. Tell me a little bit about what your vision from a planning and zoning standpoint of McGregor would be. And again, I understand that you don't have some great in-depth knowledge because you've not sat on the board, but when you think about housing and business for McGregor, because zoning really is about placing where those things can be, and to some extent, what kind of business or industry or something that we want to attract. What is your vision and desire for McGregor?
Absolutely. I want to continue to see McGregor grow. That's a huge part of, from what McGregor has come to now from what it was when is huge. There's so much more opportunity here, so much more, things to do. I want to see it continue to flourish and continue to get better. Like I said, I've grown up here and what I've seen is what you've all done is, outstanding, and I just want to continue to see that happen and to be a part of it and just continue to see it going in the right direction and be more involved in my community. to me, whatever we can get to come here is huge, whatever serves a purpose for us and whatever fits best, whatever works for us and whatever works for our community, is naturally what I wanna do, whatever and whoever, I'm game for whatever, I just wanna see Greg continue to grow and get bigger.
On these boards, like, I know Danny Benitez has been an alternate on this board, and I'm assuming he's come to quite a few meetings as an alternate. I know you don't get to vote, do you get to ask questions as an alternate in a meeting, or?
You also did see in his text, his letter, he said that he would like to be moved to city manager.
If, Chris, if we made a decision to move Danny up, would you be interested in being an alternate in there where you could actually come to the meetings and learn, and then when another spot opened up, you'd be ready?
Sure.
That'd be an option?
Sure, I have no problem with that. I mean, I would love to be, a full member, but, I'll go with whatever, decisions that y'all make.
Would there be any conflict with him serving on the P and Z and also the zoning board of adjustment?
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll give you another opening on the board of adjustment.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's probably the question, Chris. I'm assuming if you had your choice, you'd rather be in any role in this as opposed to the zoning board of adjustment.
Absolutely. Joe approached me, me and Joe have been lifelong childhood friends. We graduated high school together. Our kids have went to school together. He approached me, I don't know, a month or two ago, because he knew I was on the adjustment board. We never met, and said, hey, would you be willing, interested in taking my spot, on the planning and zoning board? And, I was like, absolutely. I've been looking for an opportunity to get more involved, and so, that's the reason for, like I said, it's been 3 years, we've never had a meeting.
Yeah.
And on the boards and employees, like, there's no conflict of interest with any of that, correct? Seeing that Alicia's an employee. There's no, like, I know he's serving as an alternate, so even if we move Danny up, would there be any conflict, like, with a spouse being an employee?
She doesn't have anything to do with zoning or any of that process.
Okay.
Well, mildly, it's a conflict, because I know how, I want Chris to serve somewhere, because of, his spirit and attitude for the city. At the same time, we told Danny that if he would serve for a few years, we'd move him up, so it's kind of a tough spot.
And these other members, I know they want to continue to serve, but have they been present? Pat and David?
Oh, yeah. The P and Z's pretty solid group.
Okay.
Does Jim Lilly make it to the meetings?
All the time. My suspicion is your chair may or may not, she's talked about it a time or two, but she has gone back on this last time. As long as Bonnie wants to serve, certainly, she's really your historical intern there. But she's talked about getting off a couple of times, so I suspect there'll be an opening. Hope not.
Okay, any other comments, questions, opportunities open for a motion?
I'm
Uh,
conflicted, like,
I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint David Lillard, Pat Richardson.
That's a good place to start. Is there a second on that?
Start right there.
That's very right, that's good.
That's a tough one.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Okay, we got a motion and a second to reappoint David Lillard and Pat Richardson to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. That motion carries. Now for the open spot. Yeah, I don't wanna leave Danny hanging. I mean, so somebody who, he has been to, he has been to a meeting. I know when we appointed me to this, even an alternate position, he was here, and I think he said things similar to what Chris did. He's been here a long time and has kids, and he's involved. And Chris, I'm sure you know Danny.
Mhm.
Yeah, so. Yeah, so
These boards conflict?
yes, that's what we were saying. So Chris will, I mean, it's apparent that Chris is gonna be in some capacity, so he will come off of this. He's gonna be in some capacity, it looks like, on the planning and zoning, so he'll come off the zoning board.
That's the one that doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Well, can I make a double move here?
Let's go with it.
Can I make a motion to move Danny up to a permanent position and move Chris into an alternate position?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Is that a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion to move Danny Benitez into a permanent spot on the planning and zoning and move Chris Knox into the alternate position for Danny.
Second.
We're all set.
There's a motion, a second, as stated by Paul, to move Danny into a permanent spot and to take Chris from, looks like zoning board of adjustment into the planning and zoning alternate position. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries.
Thanks, Chris, I
Oh, yes,
appreciate
sir.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Just,
you-
you know,
and you
the
never
same-
know
The same,
when
you
another
know,
spot will
for
open.
the same situation with Danny, you know, I would appreciate it if, you know, when somebody else gets off, you know, I would love to,
Yes, we'll do it.
Thank you for that.
You'll have an open invite.
Appreciate your service.
Yes.
P and Z is about to get busy in other areas other than just monthly meetings. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later, and the alternates will all be involved.
So what happens when you go to those meetings, Chris, is they're open to the public, but no one shows normally, but what happens there is extremely important because it comes back to the city for a recommendation, which we rarely overturn. So I would highly encourage you to attend those,
Oh, absolutely.
learn for a little while, and then be part of the conversation because you now have an official role. You have a voice, so. And like Danny, who served his time, then yours is gonna come too. And it's a really important spot.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
Where does that leave us?
Zoning board.
Zoning
Oh, the zoning board of adjustment.
So now we have,
Under 10 is to discussion of possible action regarding appointment of members for the zoning board of adjustment. So,
We didn't get, did you hear about something
No, she just goes spring later.
from
and we now have Chris, who's open too.
But she did want to continue to serve, but we were trying to get her to bring a
Never
letter.
happened. Okay. But she never brought the
She
letter.
verbally told me,
Okay. Ella didn't get, she wants to do it, so we need, if we're just,
she doesn't have
Ella and
access to
Jean, we know of,
email.
put her back there.
Yeah, so does anybody want to make a motion to reappoint Burgess, Gee, and Taylor?
I make a motion, we, approve Jeff Burgess, Dylan G, and Jean Taylor.
Yes.
Just put zoning board of adjustment.
Second.
There's a motion second to reappoint Burgess, Gee, Taylor. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. Now that leaves, that's right, Knox and Kelly open.
And no alternate.
And no alternates.
So we need about 4 people.
Yeah, if we do
for a board that never meets.
We're
Yeah,
near-
but if they need to, boy, it's gonna be,
By law, we have to have at least 5 members. And so they may not ever meet, but when they meet, it's always in conflict with the zoning board by definition. And just as a side note, whenever they render a decision, not even you have the opportunity to overturn it unless you sue your own board in district court. It's a little known fact.
okay, we'll just hold that open. Okay, so that, takes us to item 11, which is a closed meeting pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551, 071 legal, 072 real estate, 074 personnel, 087 economic development, and under item B, which is real estate, under Texas Government Code Section 552.072, discussion regarding land purchase for Ansler Park, and also under item D, economic development, under 551.087, discussion regarding economic development negotiations, including commercial financial information received from a business prospect seeking to locate, stay, or expand, enter into the city of McGregor to discuss economic development negotiations and/or deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect. So, at this time at 7:52, we will stand in recess and go into executive session. turn us on. Okay, it's 8:16. We are back in open session. Under item 12, discussion and possible action regarding the approval to purchase 2.5 acres located at 315 Mulberry Drive, more commonly known as the AMA Hall Association of Mexican Americans.
Council, we have an opportunity to pick up 2.5 acres where the old AMA and the building is. We may be able to rehab the building. We'll have to do an analysis on that. But the price is $125,000, and I certainly recommend that we make that purchase and put that piece of property in the park. You can tell how it kind of fills in. The light green is Amsler Park as it is today, and that dark green wedge is just kind of right in the middle of the west side. That would allow us to make the park more contiguous and also expand the Frisbee golf eventually to a full 18 instead of a crisscross 9. And I would like to make that recommendation.
Is there a motion under 12?
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of 2.5 acres dedicated for 15 Mulberry Drive.
And let's put in the price. That should be public.
$25,000.
I second.
There's a motion, a second, to purchase the AMA Hall under item 12, as motioned in second. Any other questions or comments about that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. To item 13, to receive the financials as of July 31st, 2022.
July represents 83.33% of our fiscal year, and general fund revenues are at 97.2, and expenditures are 71.9. Our utility fund revenues are at 73.89, their expenditures are at 70.55. The exchange is at, revenues are at 122.77, and expenses are at 113.03. And the airport is at 84.45 and 41.96. Our net cash in bank is 1.625 million, more than the same period last year. Our operating accounts are up a total of 11,000. Total cash is up 1.48. Grants are up 663,000, and capital projects and debt service accounts decreased 335 and 198,000 respectively. Our general fund net cash flow is 188,000 higher than the previous year. Revenue is up 402,000, and expenditures are up 214,000 as compared to last July. The revenue increase is mainly due to higher ad valorem taxes, higher land lease, higher court fees and fines, and sale of assets. Capital outlay is up at the fire department, parks department, and fleet. Contracted services are up, supplies are up, and other is up. Our utility fund net cash is down 616,000. Revenues are down 518,000, and expenses are up 98,000. Water revenue itself is down 399,000. Wastewater revenue is down 97,000. Garbage revenue is down 19.9. Tap fees are down 43.6. Penalty revenue is up 6.8, and sale of assets is up 9.9. Personnel services are up 165. Capital outlay is down 111.8, and contracted services is up 44.5.
Carolyn, before you go to the next bullet there, does anybody know why our water revenue would be down so much? I mean, has anybody looked to see if are we using as as much water. You would think in a drought that there would have been a lot of water used. Maybe it's just the opposite. Because we're in a drought, everyone stopped using water. I don't know, but that is a lot. $400,000 is a lot of money.
It is, and I did check as far as bill versus, production for this month, there was only like 24,000 gallons difference between bills, and so it's not there, you know, which we had issues before with leaking
That's what I'm getting
and things of
at.
that knowledge, so I know that it wasn't that.
But I know a lot of people are cutting back. And they're even they called ahead of time to see if we were in drought.
We also, I can tell you from the Bluebonnet Water Supply Corporation, board meetings, the overall pumpage is down through the whole system and has trended down for the last 4 years.
Which is okay, that's fine, but my goodness, that is a big number to be down. And so it's got, if it's, from what you're telling me, we're talking about just down a little bit of water usage, that wouldn't account for that big number. So can someone try to figure that out?
SpaceX's first, cause that's a huge water user.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, they could just not
Just-
do one or two.
If someone can follow up and let us know what, and it could be nickel and dime here and there in several things, I don't know. That's just a big number.
We'll look at our top 10, so, and see what they are compared to last year,
Okay.
and see where it might fall out there.
Okay.
Especially with more houses being built. you would think
That's
it's-
right.
And more and more.
And again, remember, this is the July report.
Correct.
Mhm.
So it's just the beginning of summer, right?
Right.
You work really into the heat wave yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, hang on, that's as of July 31st though, right? Yeah.
First month.
Man, it was plenty hot in
I agree.
July.
July.
June was hot.
Okay.
Okay, the exchange net cash flows are down, 67.8, revenues are down 25.8, and expenses are up 41.9. The different rentals were party rental, other rental, and wedding rental were all down compared to last year, and contracted services are up 18.2. Our capital outlay is up 11.7, but I would like to point out that we were given a donation for that. Personnel costs are up 6.2, and building maintenance is up 4.6. The municipal airport net cash flows are up 3.3. So about level with last year. The revenues are down 7.8 and expenses are down 11. The revenue is down due to the sale of hangars in last year and the EAA. Then you have the breakdown of each account for the bank accounts there, and then also below that is the expenditures. Then you go to the next page after that shows your net change in funds, which is your operating, the operating funds are down, like we said, 10.9. Our debt service is down 197, operating is up 10.9. Debt service is down 197.6. Capital projects are down 335. Grants are up 663. And full cash is up 1.4, so for total of the 1.625 change in assets. And then your very last page is your sales tax, and as you can see, we're still ahead of the game from last year. It's continuing to rise. We're at 1.2 million. That's good news.
That's awesome.
That is good news.
Cassie, going back to the exchange a minute, what's the explanation for the revenues being down there so much when it's
So
rented
that
out
was-
all the time, but the rentals are down?
Well, technically they're not. So as of June, we were booked out completely for the entire calendar year of 2023.
Right.
Which means we're not taking any more bookings at this point because we're not booking 2024 yet.
I see.
So it's just a timing thing as far as we're booked out every weekend through now and Christmas of next year.
I see.
So we're filling in dates as we go as far as the minimal available Fridays, got a very few Sundays open. We filled in quite a bit of Thursdays with like Ducks Unlimited banquet and the Advocacy Center and a lot of the other banquets or fundraisers that are happening. So we're filling in our daytime weeks, our daytimes now as far as during the week. But I don't have anything available for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, looking until we're in January of 2024.
So where accounting works, we may book something for, let's just say, December of this year, receive a booking fee of $2,500, and we put that on the books in this month when it's received, even though it's not earned?
Yeah, because it's invoiced. The entire sum of it is invoiced. So essentially, someone will come in and fill out their rental agreement. So December of next year, they're doing that Christmas event. It's an entire week's worth of event. So I'll book it and invoice them, not due until 30 days before their event, and it falls into our fiscal year 2024. So a lot of it becomes deferred revenue.
You take the revenue that you take as the deposit.
Yes, the revenue as a deposit is, because they turn that in when they book their date,
So we count that right now as revenue.
I believe.
The deposit is actually a liability. It's not a revenue or expense. The deposit is a liability.
Gotcha, that
Okay.
makes sense.
And so that gets put, and then last year the auditors opted not to, but what we do generally is we defer the revenue. So this will change at year end. This is what we collect all year long. And then we look at, this was for this year, this was for the following year, and then we move that to deferred revenue. And then the following year, you reverse it, so it's revenue in that year.
Okay, I understand
If
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Without confusion.
It does.
It took me a while to fully
It's just
understand it
not
as well.
how the accounting
So,
works
yeah.
in my household.
Exactly.
No.
Your cash.
Okay.
So yeah,
thanks a lot.
it's just timing. And like I said, because we don't have anything open, we're not taking any bookings right now.
Yeah.
So between now and October the 1st, because we'll open up our calendar October the 1st for 2024, for calendar year 2024, not fiscal year, because we've already booked October, November, December of our fiscal year 2024. I count for it 2 different ways in multiple books, so I know it's calendar year versus fiscal year, so it gets a little confusing.
I didn't think anybody'd come to that hay barn.
No, but we're having the Hay Barn Halloween Festival soon.
Gonna have another hay barn Halloween? Good.
Absolutely.
Free to the public.
All right. Thanks a lot. Anybody else have any questions about the financials? Okay, thanks, Carolyn. That takes us to 14, announcements from the city manager.
I have someone I'd like to introduce to you. Would like you to meet Brian Lemillier. Is that right?
Good job, sir.
Okay. It's spelled Lemilleur, but it's like familiar, Lemillier. That's- We took bets and I won. Actually, I didn't. Brian comes to us happily from the city of Marlin, where he spent a year and a half. He has his master's in public administration, his bachelor's in communications, is that right?
Marketing communications.
Marketing communications. I've had to threaten Cassie and Marissa to keep their hands off of him until he gets his job done, because they're salivating over his experience. He's going to be a backup operator of our system in the back to give Cassie a break every once in a while, which that's going to be funny, actually. Brian will be our planner, taking the place of the current contract we have with Mike Olson. I thought I got rid of Mike, but I can't seem to do it. And I'm kidding, Mike. He's got to get his legs under him as far as our day-to-day planning operation. Mike's going to be helping with that transition. Once he gets comfortable with that, we are going, and I say we all, particularly the Planning and Zoning Board, and Brian and the community are going to embark on a comprehensive planning process for McGregor. You haven't done that in a long time. In fact, I'd wager you've never really done it. but it's going to be similar to your 2030 plan, only much more detailed. It's going to combine all of your master plans and water, wastewater, parks, airport, everything, transportation, into the document, as well as what your zoning is going to be out in your extraterritorial jurisdiction in the area between here and Waco. Waco is interested in cooperating with us in that effort on the stuff between here and there. And my goal is to have a usable future comprehensive plan in place that you will use as your Bible. The question now is, Mayor, particularly for y'all to consider, we are also kind of teed up to begin the re-evaluation of the 2030 plan. And do we want to do that separately or as part of this project? And there's some arguments to go both ways, so those are some things that we're going to all be talking about while he's getting his legs under him as far as the day-to-day zoning and so forth. He's also going to cut his teeth on 3 major annexations that you have to do here pretty quickly. Charlie Olson is going to be helping us with that. So I ask you to welcome Brian and be kind to him. And when he's walking up and down the hallways, muttering and tearing up, try to be understanding, because he's going to have a lot to digest in a short period of time. But I want to welcome Brian. And Brian, anything you want to say to these folks, you go right ahead.
You bet.
Oh, you hear great things about McGregor. I live in Waco and kind of moved there last year, bought a house in Waco last year, and McGregor has a great reputation, so I'm honored to be here and be a part of this community that is thriving and growing and innovative.
We're pleased to have you. I've been on Kevin a while about finding a planner, and I know that's difficult to do, so we're really pleased to have you aboard. And I know everybody around city staff will welcome you, and council does too, and I'm sure you'll find that citizens, most of them, will be very welcoming as well. So
thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Take good care of Bonnie Mullins. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's all I have, Council.
All right. I just put my agenda up. What else we got?
That's it. Oh, Mayor, council members.
Request from the council, mayor and council. Council, anybody have any requests?
I feel like I did, but I didn't write it down. I'm just gonna, I'll save it for next time.
I know we have some holdover appointments. Let's try to get those taken care of next time. Do we have any other meetings scheduled between now and our?
You tell them, Angela.
Oh, no.
Okay, good. I was going to argue with y'all about that, but that's good.
Good.
No special.
Okay, well, I like all you people. Maybe I won't see you till October. All right. With that, this meeting's adjourned at 8:34.
Thank y'all very much.